right, good evening, everybody. How is everyone?
Doing good.
We made it to hump day. It's Wednesday. We had football Monday night, and we got a short week. So why not have a show with a great guest? How about a big hand for Ray Didinger?
Some people look a little more tired than others.
You guys get caught up for Monday night yet? All right, welcome everybody. Buffalo Wild Wings, Glen Mills. Thank them as they help host the show every month, along with City Distilling. Again, we thank everybody. Get in on the raffles back there. Go grab your free ones. Spend a couple bucks. There's some great stuff, some great autograph stuff. Go check them out. We usually pull raffles right around 8 o'clock, so you're here for a little bit anyway. So grab some beer specials, some wing specials. How was the food, right?
Excellent.
Excellent. That's
Excellent.
what we like to hear. Good job. Good job. Again, our guest this evening, we've worked with Ray several times. It's an honor to bring him out and for him to give up his Wednesday night. What would you be doing if we hadn't summoned you?
Probably walking the dog.
You'd probably rather be walking the dog, right?
No, I walked him twice already today. That's enough. He's on his own for now. I guarantee I'll be walking when I get home.
There you go.
It's a little colder today too, so it's a little warmer inside here.
All right. Normally, we don't dig right into questions, but it appears we got everyone's attention. And anybody have a question they want to start the show off? We don't normally do that, but I just think it's appropriate. Pick the brain of somebody that's been around how many years?
56 years doing this. I started with the Philadelphia Bulletin, for those of you that are old enough to remember the Philadelphia Bulletin. I started there in 1969 and started covering the Eagles in 1970. So yeah, I've been covering the Eagles for, hard to believe, 56 years.
Wow. Impressive.
When I first started covering in 1970, their coach was a guy named Jerry Williams. The quarterback was Norm Snead. And they weren't a very good team. It was the very last year that they played at Franklin Field. The vet was under construction, and they were supposed to move to the vet in 1970. But the way things work in the city of Philadelphia, construction fell behind schedule, so they had to play. They weren't prepared to, but they had to play that last season at Franklin Field after they had already sent out the season tickets with seating plan for Veterans Stadium. At the last minute, they had to cancel that and move back to Franklin Field. And so that was my first year covering them, and they weren't a very good team. But then in 1976, they hired Dick Vermeil, and things started to get a little bit better.
You were telling a story. I forget what play it was. Afterwards, the Q&A, which it may be better than the actual plays. I'm not sure, because you got into it pretty good with a couple of your guests. But you were talking about how you got started, and you weren't supposed to be the guy at the Bulletin, and somebody quit, left, whatever, and they gave you the job after like a very short amount of time.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that?
That's pretty much the way it was. I mean, they hired me in 1969 to cover high school sports. And so I did that for 1 year. And then the gentleman who had been covering the Eagles for 35 years, a guy named Hugh Brown, decided to retire and move to Tennessee. And all of a sudden, they were looking around for a pro football writer. And the sports editor told me, "You're the guy." And I had only been there 1 year. I was 23 years old, and I was stunned, and so was everybody else in the office. But he said, I think you can do it. I think you can do it. I have confidence in you. And, if it just proves to be too much, if you feel like you're in over your head, we'll make a change. You can go back to doing high schools, but I think you can do this. And so, I went in there and just sort of did the best I could. It didn't help covering a 3-10-1 team, but there wasn't a whole heck of a lot to write about. But here I am, all these years later, still doing the job, and I still appreciate and very often think back to that gentleman, Jack Wilson, who was the sports editor, who gave me that opportunity. I don't know that many people would have, but he did, and in so doing, he changed my life.
Yeah.
Very good.
Now, was there many other writers in your division there, I guess, your department that could have gotten it with more seniority?
Yeah, there was another gentleman named Frank Brady, who was a very good sports writer, a veteran, a guy who had been with the department for 10, 12 years, who had been Huey Brown's backup when the Eagles beat. So in other words, when the Eagles would play a game, he would go with Huey, and he would do the sidebar, he would do the notes column, and on days when Huey had off, he filled in.
Okay.
So everybody just kind of assumed, I kind of assumed, that when Huey stepped aside, that Frank would take over the job. And the sports editor just decided he was going to give me the shot. And Frank stayed on, and he worked with me and helped me tremendously. I mean, really sort of showed me the ropes. And no resentment, no jealousy, no stabbing me in the back, none of that stuff. I mean, Frank did nothing but help me get through that year. And I found that this was what I wanted to do. If I had been able to pick my job, if they had said, pick your dream job, that would have been it. I love pro football. I've been following the Eagles since I was a little boy. I knew everything about the team. I knew it inside out. So if you had asked me, what would you want to do if you could pick anything, that would have been it. But I didn't expect the sports editor to hand it to me in year number 2.
Right.
But there I was, 23 years old, just 2 years out of college, with my dream job already. And I had the opportunity. I just had to make sure I didn't mess it up.
Yeah.
I don't think you did.
No.
Hey, we can roll right into the play, Tommy and me, because as a little boy, maybe you should take it from there, because has anyone seen the play, Tommy and me? You guys are messing it.
Lady there's nodding her head.
Okay.
Yes.
Great play. Why don't you give us a little snippet of how that all got started?
When I was 9 years old, my parents were actually 8, 9 years old. My parents were such big pro football fans, such big Eagles fans, that when my father would get his 2-week summer vacation from the steel plant, our summer vacation, we would drive up to Eagles training camp, which was then in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And we would spend 2 weeks at Hershey just going to watch the Eagles practice. That was our summer vacation. No Jersey Shore, no Poconos, nothing like that. We were standing in the hot sun watching the Eagles practice. That was our summer vacation. But one of the great advantages of it was, back in those days, it was so easy to be close to the players. There was no security guards, there were no fences, there was nobody telling you can't walk there or you can't ask for an autograph. I mean, it was just wide open. And my favorite player was Tommy McDonald at that time. And so during those 2 weeks when I was up there, I would just wait outside the locker room for him, which you could do. I mean, it was as easy as just sitting on a little bench outside the locker room. The players all came and went. And when Tommy came out the first day, I had my little autograph book, and I said, "Mr. McDonald, can I have your autograph?" And he said, "Sure." And he signed my autograph book, handed it back to me, and said, "You want to walk with me to the practice field? Here, carry my helmet." And that was how it started. And every day for all of those summer vacations we went there, that became a routine. I would wait for him. He would come out. He would hand me his helmet, and we would walk to the practice field. And we developed a friendship. And that friendship carried on through his career. He got traded from the Eagles in '64. So we got traded away. But we had 7 years of those summers where he started calling me little brother, because I was always sort of attached to his hip. And then later on, I became a sports writer. He retired as a player. And over the course of time in interviewing him, he had told me that I asked him one time, do you have any regrets? I mean, you had such a great career. You played 12 years. You won a world championship with the Eagles in 1960. In college, you played at the University of Oklahoma. And in 3 years at Oklahoma, 3 varsity seasons, never lost a game. Imagine that, going through your whole college career. You're 31-0, won 2 national championships in college, came to the NFL, played 12 years, won a world championship. And I asked him, is there anything that's kind of a regret? I mean, given the fact you've achieved pretty much everything, is there any regrets? And he said, yeah, I kind of thought that I might have a chance to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That was kind of my dream, but it looks like it's never going to happen. And I just decided that I was going to do my best to try and get him in the Hall of Fame. He had been retired for 16 years, had never even been a finalist, but I was on the voting body for the Hall of Fame. So I was in a position where I could actually begin trying to work and build a campaign to get him in the Hall of Fame and get him the one thing that he really felt would kind of complete his career. And in 1998, it happened that he got voted into the Hall of Fame, and he asked me to be his presenter. So if you can imagine what a thrill that was, to be up in Canton, Ohio, with your boyhood hero, and you're giving the speech to present him for his induction into the Hall of Fame. I just thought that was a really cool story. A story of dreams coming true, literally for the both of us. And I sat down and I wrote a play about it called Tommy and Me. And believe it or not, that play's been running for 10 years. We started it in 2016, and we just finished a run of it a couple weeks ago up at the People's Light Theater in Malvern. That was the 10th year that we've been doing Tommy and Me. And I suspect, I don't know where it'll be, but I suspect it'll probably be back next year. So if you haven't seen it to this point, it doesn't matter if you even know who Tommy McDonald is, because I suspect he played long before most of you were born. But the story is really only partly about football. The story is really about relationships, little boys, their heroes, and dreams coming true. That's really what it is. And whether you're if you're a football fan, you'll absolutely love it. If you're an Eagles fan, you will totally love it. But even if you're not into football, and we hear this at the theater all the time, a lot of people say, I'm not really that big of a football fan, but I love this story. And I think you would feel the same way. So if it comes back and you hear about it coming back, come out and see it. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Very good.
All right, we do have a question back here.
Hey, Ray, during your years, I love your work, love your writing and everything like that. But my question to you is, despite the 7-2 start, what's wrong with Eagles offense? I mean, I think this offense should be an absolute machine.
Should be. It should be. When you look at it, you got the same quarterback, the same running back, the same skill position guys, and the same offensive lineman, with the exception of the right guard. So it's the same bunch as last year, and they were a machine last year. Not so much this year. It is like most things in football. It's never just one thing. From week to week, it's different things. A lot of people want to blame Kevin Patullo, the new offensive coordinator. They want to blame the play calling. That's way too simple. It's not just as easy as that. Has he been great? No. He's made his share of mistakes. I think the biggest problem, it's been like week to week, it's all different stuff. But the biggest problem has been really the offensive line. The offensive line that has been, for the last couple of years, and especially last year, was so dominant. I mean, far and away the best offensive line in football. Has not been this year. And mostly it's because a lot of the guys, they've all been hurt at various times. Not hurt so bad that they can't play, but just not 100%. And so all of them, I mean, Dickerson has had a knee injury and a back injury and an ankle injury. And he's only missed one game, but he's not the player that he was last year. Cam Jurgens had back surgery in the offseason and has not really come back from that. You saw he didn't play last week. I kind of think he might not even play this week. I'm not sure when he's going to be back, but he's been playing hurt all year. Lane Johnson had pinched nerve in his neck. He's been in and off the field and has played, but even he is playing hurt. Tyler Steen, the right guard, who's took Becton's place, has been the healthiest, but he's basically a rookie and makes rookie mistakes. And that's kind of been it. It's been one thing or another on the offensive line. And as a group, they just haven't played nearly as well as they did last year. And as a result, Barkley is getting hit behind the line of scrimmage, whereas last year he was getting through the line easy. Hurts' protection has only been so-so. He's been sacked 25 times. That's a lot. And they just aren't controlling the game up front the way they did last year. Now you hope that over the second half of the season, maybe some of those guys will get healthier and that they will play better. You saw the second game against the Giants, it all kind of came together. And for one night, you kind of saw, oh yeah, okay, they kind of figured it out. And then they came back against Green Bay, and they were kind of back to where they were. I think that it's been a lot of different things. The coaches and Hurts have both said it. They keep saying the term, it's execution. We're not executing. And it sounds like a cliche and it sounds like an excuse, but there really is a lot of truth to it. If you watch the film, you just see, and it's not one thing, like on one play, it'll be this guy. Then the next play, it'll be this guy. But the overall effect of it is the whole thing is just not coming together. That's kind of where it is. So you just hope that from this point forward, that they will start to find their rhythm and start to get it going. But right now, they're just sputtering. They're just sputtering. And part of it Monday night with the Green Bay defense is very good. Those guys are really, really good. They're a top 6 defense in the league for sure. They're young, they're physical, and I knew going in it was going to be a tough one for the Eagles, and it was. The Lions are no joke either. This is going to be a tough game here too. But you hope week by week that the pieces will start to fit together. But it has to start up front. The offensive line has to kind of get back to, if not as good as it was last year, then close to that, for that offense to kind of get back to where it was.
Just a question on the offensive line there. I agree. Carl and I, we talk about that a lot. Do you think the offensive line troubles with the injuries has anything to do with the tush push a little bit, the physical abuse that they get, more so than other teams constantly doing that play?
No. I don't think the tush push has anything to do with it.
Yeah, like wear and tear, like you said, for the back and that kind of stuff.
No, there's contact in every snap.
Right.
And no, that's not a factor. In fact, that was what some of the people around the league who oppose the tush push and want to get rid of the tush push, that was the argument they made at the off-season owners meetings to try and get it out. It's too tough on the players. It's a risk of injury, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the Eagles' counter argument was, we've never had anybody hurt running that play, and they haven't. And they brought Jason Kelce in. Right. Jeff Lurie brought Kelce in to address the owners and say that, look, nobody knows the tush push better than I do. I'm the one that's under it every time we run it. And he said, it's nothing. In terms of a lot of the hits we get in the open field, it's really not that big a deal.
Right.
So the argument about the injury factor just completely fell apart. And the tush push survived, only by 2 votes, but it did survive. I will tell you now, for those of you that are fans of the tush push, and I suspect if you're Eagles fans, you probably are, enjoy it while you can, because it won't be here next year.
Right.
They're going to vote it out. There's no question. And they finally now have an argument where they can vote it out. And that's, you heard them announcers talking about it's too hard to officiate. You can't see false starts. The play 2 weeks ago when Hurts clearly fumbled on that play, but then they said, no, we can't tell where forward progress is. They're going to put all of these things together in a presentation to the owners. And they're going to say, see, the officials, they can't officiate this play. It's unfair. We can't do this anymore. And I really believe that argument will work. and it's going to get voted out. Also, the other factor is the people in the league office, including the commissioner, hate it.
Right.
And so they are going to be twisting the arms of every owner who's straddling the fence on this and convincing them to vote against it. So, yeah, the Eagles have that one advantage. That's that one thing that nobody else has is that play, and it helps them. There's no question. Whenever they run it, they get the first down. But the league is going to see. They're going to say enough of that, and it's going to come out in the books after the season.
Yeah, no, I didn't think that you get hurt on the play itself, but just the wear and tear part of it was what I was more thinking that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that was all.
All right, we got a couple questions back in.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the tush push too, right? Seems to me the biggest difference between the tush push and the quarterback sneak is that the players are allowed to push the quarterback. So why is the tush push so much harder to officiate than a quarterback sneak? And if they, how are they going to abolish the tush push in a way that will still allow quarterback sneak? That's what confuses me.
It is different than a quarterback sneak. The formation is much tighter because you really have more people jammed right at the line of scrimmage than you do in a standard quarterback sneak. It just looks different. And I think if you've watched the games, you've seen they've taken some shots down the line where you can kind of see underneath, and you see the Eagles false start a lot. And it almost never gets called. It's been called, I think, twice. But I've seen a number of times where there was false start and it didn't get called because the line judge didn't quite see it. I can understand it's a tough play to officiate. And that argument will resonate with the owners, and that's what's going to get the thing overturned. But look, it is an odd-looking play. I fully understand that. And if the Dallas Cowboys were running it and converting first downs every time they ran it, I would probably want it going too. The fact that I'm sort of supporting it is because I like the fact that the Eagles have something that nobody else had. I can't ever remember a time when the Eagles kind of had a weapon that nobody else had. And I've kind of enjoyed watching them win games with it. But I think it's going to go. One of the ironic things about it is you're right. I mean, it really is nothing more than a glorified quarterback sneak. And the team that is most adamant about getting rid of it, the team that has been the loudest in complaining about it, is the Green Bay Packers. And what I find ironic about that is the most famous quarterback sneak in the history of professional football was run by the Green Bay Packers. It was that play in the Ice Bowl at the goal line when Bart Starr's quarterback sneaked and won the world championship on that frozen field. It might be the most famous play in Packer history, one of the most famous plays in NFL history, and it was really nothing more than a quarterback sneak, and the Packers ran it. And here are the Packers now. They're the team that's trying to get it out of the game. I find that somewhat ironic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's true.
We had another question, I think. Lauren disappeared.
Hey, Ray, this show post-game live. I follow your career. What team scares you in the playoffs, Ray? Is the Eagles? Is it the Rams are off the wood right now? What team really scares you for the Eagles get to the Super Bowl? What team really scares you?
This season, this team, pretty good. I mean, if they get right now, they're the number one seed. And if they can finish up the regular season as the number one seed, they got a real good chance. Because it'd be very hard for anybody to come in here and beat them in a playoff game. They have a significant home field advantage here. That had a lot to do with them getting to the Super Bowl last year, I think. I mean, the way it kind of looked going into the playoffs last year, if you remember, they were not the number one seed. The Lions were. And then the Eagles, to be frank, got kind of a break. Washington went into Detroit and beat the Lions as big underdogs. and that gave the Eagles the home game. And they got Washington coming up here, and they beat them, 55 to 20 something. So that home field advantage, now that there's only one team that has total home field, is bigger than it's ever been. And I think that this year, because there are so many teams that are all bunched together. I mean, you've got a whole bunch of teams right now with 6 and 7 wins. So that postseason is going to be very evenly matched. And the team that has the number 1 seed, the team that has home field guaranteed, is going to have a big leg up. And right now, the Eagles have a chance to be that. So if they can get that number 1 seed, they would undoubtedly be the favorite, and rightly so.
And I think part of his question was who would be the team that would hurt the Eagles the most, or feared it?
I'll tell you the team. Well, I think you'll learn a lot this Sunday night when they play the Lions. The Lions are very good. They are really good defensively, and they are really good offensively. I mean, Goff is completing like 75% of his passes. They have a couple really good receivers, and they have 2 very good running backs. Montgomery and Gibbs are a very good combination of power and speed. And they're both averaging over 5 yards a carry. I mean, the Lions are really good, and they showed it last week. I mean, they went into Washington and they put 44 points on Washington like it was nothing. So they're capable of that. So we'll see kind of just where the Eagles are this Sunday night. Because listen, they aren't winning this game by scoring 10 points. Okay, they won Monday night 10-7. It ain't going to be 10-7 Sunday night. Even in Philly, the Lions are going to score. So the Eagles' offense is going to have to do its job.
Right, one more thing. The play call when you get 4th down, when they just punt the ball, that the defense is playing so good that against Green Bay.
Right.
What's that call?
I don't know. I have no idea what went down. It was, I don't know if you saw that there is a controversy that came out today that it was a play that was cooked up in the huddle by Hurts and Brown. Sirianni made the decision to go for it, but that wasn't the play that he called. It's 2 separate issues here. There's no way on 4th down in that situation with that time, they just don't punt the ball. I mean, to do anything else is just stupid, in my opinion. However, those guys were on the field. If the intention was to punt the ball, Hurts, Brown, none of those guys would have been on the field. They would have been on the sidelines, and the punt team would have been in. So clearly, Sirianni, in some fashion, was going to go for it. The only question is, what play did he call, and did they overrule it and on their own decide they were going to try and score a final touchdown and make AJ happy? I mean, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. But it should have started with the coach just making the call, okay, 4th and 6, punt team, let's go. Pooch it down there, pin him down at the 10-yard line, and just play it out. You know, to do what they did, to me, made no sense. It made no sense. So my feeling on it, obviously, I'm thinking the same thing you were thinking. The one thing I thought was, and I still don't know exactly what went on in the huddle, but the only thing, if you look at the personnel that's on the field, obviously it's not the punt team. Okay, so Sirianni, for whatever else is called, has those guys out on the field. Okay, so now what's the plan? Is the plan really to run another kind of pass route, which is stupid in and of itself? Or I think this is a possibility. Put those guys out there, let the clock run all the way down, take a delay of game penalty, walk you back 5 yards, which means nothing where you are. If anything, it just gives your punter a bigger target to drop it inside the 10-yard line. And, you know, after they call delay a game, then substitute, put your punt team in, and then punt it. That may have been what Sirianni called. When they got in the huddle, they decided, no, we're going to go for the dagger here. And they just called a play that made Nick is trying to cover for them now. He's got all these, he keeps trying to explain what he was doing. And every time he explains it, it makes less sense. But he doesn't want to make that, if that's really what happened, he doesn't want to make them look bad. But it was just dumb. I mean, it was just dumb. And they're lucky it didn't cost them.
On the players' lounge last night, Tanner McKee kind of made it sound like the play was kind of had a two-way option. So that was part of the play that was called. If the defense showed that look that they could have gone for that, so more so than Jalen and AJ went rogue, but
I don't know.
But that was kind of the way he was kind of explaining it, that it was part of the play where maybe it was a crossing play, a slant type of thing to get the first down. But,
yeah, but it begs the question: why are you even talking about that?
Exactly.
Why are you even talking about that?
There shouldn't even be on there. Exactly.
The only thing that makes sense is to punt in that situation.
Right.
The only thing. And so the only way I exonerate Sirianni is if what he said was, just go in there, let's line up,
Right.
run the clock down, take the delay, and then we're going to substitute and we're going to punt the ball. I have no idea what happened. I had no idea who took charge. But to me, if that's what it was, okay, then I kind of understand it. But any of this other stuff, to me, if you're going to be playing in the National Football League with the idea of winning a championship, you don't do dumb stuff like that.
Exactly.
Dumb stuff like that gets you beat in a
Oh, yeah.
10-7 game.
Exactly.
All right,
Especially on the road.
Sorry, John, another question back here.
Ray, first and foremost, I want to thank you because Tommy McDonald was my favorite player growing up, and I remember watching him with my dad. And I have his card. I've seen Tommy twice, and it was fun talking to you and learning more about Tommy when I had a few minutes with him. And a lot of the football that I've learned comes from you. And when there's all these different commentators talking about football, and I'm not sure who I want to follow, I always follow you, and that helps me be a better fan of football, a better fan of the Eagles, and at least in my family, Doug and my brother, I can say, because Ray didn't said that. And then the conversation stops. Jim, you're right at Ray's answer. I have
Thank you very much. That makes me feel good.
well, what you've given all of us is amazing. I have two questions, a real one and a hypothetical. Here's a real one. So if Nick called a play and they didn't follow it, and they didn't run a play, and he said that why? What's the accountability factor with him and 1-11 the next day? What does he say to them about that? Anything?
No.
No? Okay. Well, here's my hypothetical. If Tommy McDonald was coming up today as a wide receiver, with his attitude and his determination, how would he fare in the NFL today?
How would he fare in the NFL today?
Yeah.
He'd be a star. Because if you remember the way, and you obviously do if you were a Tommy fan, the way the game was played in the 50s and 60s, it was a far more physical game than the game they're playing now. I mean, the rules were a lot looser. You could get away with a lot of stuff. If you were a receiver, you had to fight your way off the line of scrimmage. I mean, defensive backs could hit you, grab you, throw you to the ground, all that kind of stuff. Today, receivers have that free release. You can't be touched beyond 5 yards. If a guy like Tommy, who was only 5'9" and 172 pounds, if he was able to play the way he played under the old rules, where guys are getting clotheslined, mugged, wrestled, punched, all that stuff, if he was able to put up those numbers then, imagine what he would do in a league where receivers can run free. I mean, Tommy would be every bit the star that he was then, if not more, because also they're throwing the ball so much more. I mean, back when he played, they didn't throw that many passes. I'll give you a stat that you'll find hard to believe, but I'll throw it out there anyway. 1960, the year they won the championship, Tommy caught 39 passes all season. Caught 39 passes For the season, okay, he scored 13 touchdowns on 39 catches.
Wow.
So 1 out of every 3 catches was a touchdown. But even though they had a Hall of Fame quarterback like Van Brocklin, he threw the ball 22, 23 times a game. I mean, you didn't see guys throwing the ball 40, 45 times like you do today. So you take Tommy, you put him in this more wide open spread field kind of thing, and you have the ball in the air twice as much as it was back then. You can only imagine the kind of numbers Tommy would have put up. I mean, he was really, really special player. Really, really, really special player. And that's why I fought so hard to get him in the Hall of Fame, because I really felt that in his era, in his time when he played, he was one of the most dominant receivers. And the statistics back that up. So my job as the Philadelphia representative was to present that argument, was to forget all the other stuff. Let's just look at those years, the years of 59 through 63, and look at him compared to the other receivers who were playing in the league at that time under the same rules, and look at his numbers compared to those guys' numbers. I'll give you the 5-year window there. In that time, Tommy had 55 touchdown catches. The next closest guy in the whole league had 39. He had 55. The next closest guy, who was a guy some of you probably never heard of him, his name is Del Schaffner. He played for the New York Giants. He was Y.A. Tittle's favorite receiver. He had 39. Tommy had 55. And the rest of the league, and it went off the rest of the league beyond that. I mean, that's a dominant player for a 5-year period. To me, that should be a Hall of Famer. And thank goodness, finally, it took way too long, but he finally got in 98.
I remember that. Hey, would you do us all a favor, right? Just one little favor for all of us. Would you get out of retirement and get back to WIP so we can learn more about football?
I will tell you. Thank you for that. I'm very happy with my current lot in life. I really am. But thank you for that. You said about learning football. I really tried in my capacity, both in radio and television, to do that, to try and explain the game in ways that people could understand it and would maybe help them appreciate the game more. I mean, I really tried to do that. And about 2 years before I retired, I was coming out of a Wawa. All things in life happen when you're either going in or coming out of a Wawa. I was coming out of a Wawa, and a gentleman stopped me in the parking lot. He spoke with a very heavy accent. And he introduced himself, and he said that he had come to this country just 2 years earlier from Nigeria. And he had come here and he was working in a garage. And he loved Philadelphia and he wanted to build a new life here. He really wanted to settle here. But he was having trouble assimilating, you know. And so he was sort of trying to explain this to the guys at the garage that he worked with. And one of the guys at the garage says, well, look, here's what you have to do. He said, if you're going to try and make it here and make friends, and you're going to have to learn football, and you're going to have to become an Eagles fan. That's the quickest way to become accepted by people here in Philadelphia. That your Sunday has to be built around the Eagles game, and Monday talking about the Eagles game. And the guys said, and the Nigerian fellow said, so I said to him, well, how do I do that? I don't know anything about football. And the guy said to him, okay, here's what you have to do. On Saturdays and Sundays, turn on WIP and listen to Ray Diddinger. He will teach you football. This guy says to me then, he said, so I did. And by the way, while we're having this conversation, he was wearing an Eagles hoodie. Okay. He said, I did listen. And he said, you taught me football. And then he said, and now I go to work and all the guys, we all talk about it. And he said, I look forward to the games. I watch them. I listen to you. And he said something, I swear to God, I will never forget this. He said, "You taught me football, but most of all, you made me an American." And that made me feel so good.
Yeah.
That made me feel so good that because when you're on the radio and you're just talking football, you never really think about stuff like that. I mean, you have no idea that you could affect somebody you've never met, that their life that profoundly.
Yeah.
But clearly I did. And it meant so much to me. I always remember that. That was one of the really beautiful things that came out of the whole experience. Because I did try to explain things in a way that people could understand them. I didn't want to get all caught up in jargon. I didn't want to make it sound more complicated than it was. I just tried to answer people's questions and explain the game. If you're watching for this, here's what you need to look for. And let people, to me, it was a matter of helping them enjoy the game more. If you really understand what you're watching, there's a lot more enjoyment to be had. And that was one of the things I tried to do. But thank you for that. That's really nice. I appreciate it.
Some great questions. How about a little trivia?
Little trivia?
Give away some prizes.
Sure can.
Give Ray a little break.
Yes, we can do that. Alrighty, how many Emmy Awards has Ray won in his career? Yep, Lauren's coming with the
I
microphone.
think, yeah, well,
6.
What was the answer?
6.
6 is correct.
did you have 6? Was that your answer? No?
I answered 4.
You could have just said yes, and I would have given you a prize anyway.
You saw it on Wikipedia there.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, I have 4. But in
They shorted them.
But in reality, I have 6.
All right. What year did Ray retire the first time for the post-game live?
Does Ray even know that answer?
Yeah.
My wife would tell you that I still haven't retired.
That is correct. Right before the year they went to the Super Bowl.
2022, that is correct.
And they had to call him back in to come out of retirement to do the playoffs.
They did call me out of retirement for the playoffs, that is correct.
Couldn't have missed Ray Dinger for the playoffs there. You missed a hell of a year for that.
I did miss a hell of a year. Then I came back for the Super Bowl and they lost.
Right. I wasn't going to say that, but all right. This was a little tough one. Ray and his wife are not active anymore, but they worked with a dog rescue organization. What was it called?
Actually, if you just can name the dogs, the breed of dog.
There you go. Yeah. What kind? Yeah. Was it a single?
It was one breed of dog that we specialized in trying to rehome.
I have a hand. French Bulldog.
What was that?
French Bulldog.
The Bulldogs. Yep.
Yeah,
Bulldog.
English Bulldogs.
Yeah. Bulldogs.
English
Wasn't
English
French,
Bulldogs.
but English Bulldogs.
English Bulldogs. That was because I went to St. James. I went to St. James, and we were the Bulldogs, and so I had this natural affinity for Bulldogs, and my wife and I have carried that forward now. We're now on our 5th one, and when we were in the rescue program, we actually fostered 30 Bulldogs.
Wow.
We had a house full of English Bulldogs.
Not all at one time, right?
Not all at one time. We never had more than 3 at one time.
All right, you stole one of my trivia questions, but that's okay. All right. Yeah.
It truly was.
Yeah. Ray talked about his time at WIP. Who was his co-host?
Y'all can't win. Come on.
Right.
Seriously. Where did you get that question from?
I just threw that one out there.
Glenn Martindale?
That is true. That is correct. That is correct.
Wait a minute.
No, that was an easy one. Well, that was an easy one because I bounced it out with the Bulldogs one. That's why I was trying to.
I'll throw one question out there, see if anybody gets this one. I actually played a professional sport for 2 years. Does anybody know what it was? Professional softball.
There you go.
I played for a team called the Philadelphia Athletics. And our first year, 1978, we actually played our home games at Veterans Stadium.
Really?
We played softball at Veterans Stadium before crowds that were about half the size of what we have here. If you can imagine what that looked like in a 60,000 seat stadium, pretty lonely. But we did make it to the softball World Series. We made it to the World Series that year.
There you go.
Sadly, we lost to the Cleveland Jaybirds, but we made it to the World Series.
All right. And then what year was Ray inducted into the Hall of Fame?
'95?
That is correct.
That is correct, 1995.
What?
I actually got into the Hall of Fame before Tommy did.
Yes.
I got into the Hall of Fame in '95, and Tommy got in '98.
What was the award that he won getting into the Hall?
Best article?
No, there was, what's it called? Yep, there you go.
It was, at the time, it was called the Dick McCann Award. And a couple years ago, they changed it to the Bill Nunn Award. But it's one of those lifetime achievement kinds of things for a career. And there are two of them that they give out. One of them is for a writer, and then there's another award called the Pete Rozelle Award, which goes to a broadcaster. And Merle Reese got that one last year, I think. The year that I went in, the broadcaster award winner, I was the writer award winner, and the broadcaster was Frank Gifford. So I got to spend that weekend in Canton with Frank and Kathy Lee.
What was that?
Not bad. I mean, Frank Gifford's a nice man, and Kathy Lee was a nice lady. We had a lot of fun together.
Nice.
Questions, anybody? I don't want to miss anything. We've had a great run here. I think we touched on the Hurts AJ Brown issue a little bit, but I want to expand on it and narrow it down to one individual. Why has AJ Brown become such a distraction to this team?
I don't know that he was a distraction up until the last couple weeks. It looked to me like there was stuff going on and he was unhappy, but up until 2 weeks ago, it didn't seem like it was that disruptive. I mean, it was certainly talked about. It seemed like it was the only thing people talked about on WIP, was AJ Brown. And it was being written about. But honestly, within the team, there was nothing. I mean, you never got any sense that any of it carried over to the dressing room, that there was any bad feeling in the way that there was with T.O., for example. I think a lot of people try to compare the T.O. situation with the A.J. Brown situation because they play the same position, they're very similar kinds of players, and everybody's thinking that one is the same as the other, and they're really not. I mean, the T.O. thing was just purely about money. I mean, it was just purely a contractual thing that was never going to be resolved as long as Joe Banner was running things.
Right.
And then that spilled over into T.O. not talking to his coaches, not talking to his teammates, then wanting McNabb to get involved and to go intercede for him, and McNabb said, I don't do that. And then that became the rift between him and the quarterback. And next thing you know, he's doing sit-ups in his driveway. So that was one whole, and that was a distraction. There's no question about that. This one, you didn't feel it. Now, are we at that tipping point now? Maybe. I don't know. To me, AJ is a lot like a lot of the modern athletes. They live their life on social media. I mean, they live their whole life is just out there for public consumption. And every thought they have, everything they say, everything they think, it's out there for people to try interpret, misinterpret, reinterpret, take sides, and it would be nice if you could just get past that. It would be nice if Nick Sirianni would just call him in and say, look, AJ, come in here, close the door. You got some issues, you got some problems, let's you and me talk about it, okay? And chances are pretty good that I can work, you and me can work this thing out. You don't have to take this out into the public square. You don't have to make this 24/7 on talk radio. You don't have to have every columnist in the city taking an opinion on it. Let's just you and me deal with this, okay? We'll work this thing out. That way it'll be better for me, it'll be better for you, it'll be better for your teammates because they're not going to have to answer a bunch of questions about whether you're a distraction. Well, everybody else can just get down to playing football, which is what we're here to do. But all the issues you got, if you got them, lay them out, and you and I will talk about it. Some things I can probably give you, some things maybe not, but we'll work this thing out. But that's not the way the real world, that's not the way the world works now. As long as guys have cell phones and as long as guys can hit the send button, this is what you're going to be dealing with. And, some guys roll that way and some guys don't. He does. Up until a couple weeks ago, I really didn't see an issue. I didn't really see a rift on the club in the locker room. I didn't really see guys taking sides. To me, by all appearances, he was still a very popular guy. And he seemed to get along with his teammates. There didn't seem to be any problems. He wasn't an island unto himself, the way T.O. was. It was a very different situation. Now are we, have we now crossed the Rubicon and we're in a whole different thing now because of what's happened in the last couple of days? I don't know. I don't know. But we went through this last year. I mean, remember he was on the bench reading the paperback book during the game. I mean, so this isn't exactly new. And if there have been issues before, and there have been issues before, it didn't keep them from winning a Super Bowl last year. I don't think if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, if they don't get back to the Super Bowl this year, it won't be because of this. It'll be other things. It won't be because of this. Do I wish it would go away? Yeah, because I'm kind of tired of talking about it and hearing about it. But it's not going away because that's not the way the world works anymore, unfortunately. No.
Go ahead.
Hi, you should be able to hear me. Eagles draft choices the past few years have been kind of up and down. Do you think that they've improved with their in-house personnel and choosing better draft choices for the Eagles?
Yeah. I mean, I think the drafts have been pretty good. I mean, last year's draft was a huge success. I mean, they got Quinyon Mitchell, Quinyon Mitchell's really good. I mean, right now, I will tell you, and I watch a lot of film, and I look at players all around the league. He is certainly one of the five best cornerbacks in all of football, even now. And I'm incorporating all of them. I mean, he's top 5 and maybe higher. I mean, he could be top 3. I'm being conservative saying top 5. That's how good he is already. DeJean is the best slot corner that there is in the league right now. He's number 1, playing that position in the slot. He can cover. He can run with any slot receiver, and he's a very physical. He's a very tough kid. I mean, he's a really good tackler. He's a force in the run game. He plays almost like an extra linebacker. He's that physical, but he has the covers. He has the cover skills and the athletic ability to cover like a cornerback. He's a good blitzer. They don't use him a lot, but if they want to blitz him, he knows how to do that. He is very good. And those are your first 2 picks last year. Those are 2 tape measure home runs that Howie hit right there. And this year, you got Shahad Campbell, who is already a real good player. I think it would help him if they could settle on one role for him. They say have him playing some at linebacker, and then they have him playing some as an edge pass rusher. I think that's a lot to ask of a rookie. I think it would help him if they could settle him into a set of assignments. But sometimes it's a curse to be versatile, and they keep moving him back and forth. But the fact is, he can play both. But at some point, they're going to settle him into one spot, and he's going to be very good. So the drafts the last couple of years have been pretty good. The one everybody remembers was Jalen Rager, which was a terrible pick. And they've had a few. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was a bad pick. They've had some. Howie had some misses. But the last couple of years, he's drafted very well. And one of his great draft picks was Jordan Mailata. A guy, he was the 233rd player picked in that draft, 7th round. And when they announced that the Eagles in the 7th round have drafted Jordan Mailata from a rugby team in Australia, is Howie lost his mind? He's drafted guys who have never even played football. And he came in, and I give him a lot of credit because he came in and he literally had never played football. He didn't even know how to put the uniform on. And they brought him in here, 6'8", 365 pounds, amazing athlete. Amazing athletic ability for a man that size, but nowhere near ready to play. And they just turned him over to Jeff Stoutland and said, "Hey, Stout, make this guy into a football player." And, for 2 years, he never saw the field. For 2 years, it was nothing except learning, practicing. And Stoutland was really tough on him. Really worked him hard. To the point where I really thought at any point Jordan was just going to throw it and say, "Look, I really don't need this aggravation. You people hollering at me and, playing this weird game, big helmet on. I'm going back to Australia and play rugby again." I really thought almost any day that was going to happen. But I give him a lot of credit. He toughed it out. And then in year 3, Dillard was the guy, the other first-round draft pick. Dillard, the kid they drafted, to be that tackle. And that training camp, they went out there and they had Dillard and Mailata competing at left tackle. And the competition was over in week 2. It was so obvious Mailata was way better than Dillard, and he won the job. And right now, he's one of the best left tackles in all of football. And that was Howie's. People were laughing at Howie for picking him. They ain't laughing now. this guy's one of the best players at his position. So yeah, Howie had his misses, but overall, I think you got to give him pretty good marks. He built this team now,
Yeah.
and they've been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. That's pretty good. That's pretty good general managership.
Even getting Ojomo and Jalen Hunt later on in the draft last year.
Yeah. Jalen Hunt was a kid they drafted in the 3rd round, and he's really coming on. The last 2 games he's played really well.
Yeah.
And he played very well Monday night. He's got a lot of abilities. He comes from a small college, but he had something to learn. But he's a really good athlete. So he's a good player, and you're seeing that he's playing a big role now.
And to get back to Mailata was just in an interview this week. I don't know if it was that he had an interview, but I just saw it this week. He actually thought he was going to be a running back. When they drafted him, and then they started talking to him, and he's like, "That doesn't sound like a running back."
No, well, anybody that saw that footage from Australian rules football,
Yeah.
anybody that saw the pictures of Mailata running with the ball in Australian rules football, just trampling people, yeah, I think everybody kind of thought that he was going to be used in some kind of role like that. But Stoutland, when he started working him out, said, no, this guy's going to play tackle. Just leave him to me. Let me work with him, and I'll turn him into an NFL tackle. And he did.
Yeah.
All right, our hour is up. Unbelievable. We need to start doing 2 hours.
We might have to.
Anyway, go over a couple of things. Raffle tickets. We'll draw those winners right around the 8 o'clock hour. Please take care of Jess behind the bar. Cam's running around crazy. We got an extra special former player, Dickie Knowles, in the house. can't just stick in and not get acknowledged.
That's right.
All right. All right, we got our ringer in the room.
That's
right.
good. That's good. I want to make one commercial announcement here. So just tell all of you folks, get out your cell phones and write this date down. December the 3rd, Glenn Macnow, Joe Conklin, and I are doing a show at the Scottish Rite Auditorium, for those of you who've ever been there, over in Collingswood, New Jersey. We're doing a show called The Greatest Moments in Philadelphia Sports History. And it's a chance to go and relive all the greatest moments in Philadelphia sports history all in one night. And it's really a lot of fun. We've done it 3 times, and it's been great every time. And we're getting ready to do it again on December the 3rd. So if you have the opportunity, I know December's a crazy month, Christmas shopping, parties, all that stuff. But if you're free on December the 3rd, come over to the Scottish Rite Auditorium in Collingswood, New Jersey. Glenn and I will give you the backstory and all the history behind these great moments. And Joe Conklin, as only Joe Conklin can, will bring the jokes, the voices, the personalities, and all of that stuff. It's really a fun night. So if you can come out, please come out and see it. And if you've never been to the Scottish Rite Auditorium in Collingswood, it's worth seeing. It's a beautiful venue, and I'm looking forward to be there. So hopefully, if you're free that night, come on out. We'd love to see you. Dickie Knowles would probably be happy to know that the 1980 Phillies are very high on the list of great moments in Philadelphia sports history. Dickie makes an appearance, as a matter of fact.
There you go.
There you go. We're advertising that one in the store, by the way.
And we
So
are.
if anybody has any questions or goes home and doesn't have the information, reach out to us. We've got all the information in the store. One of Joe's friends was in
Yeah,
the
drop
drop-off posters. But anytime you can hang with these guys, come on. Seriously, a good night.
Absolutely.
Making fun of all the athletes in Philadelphia. I say that lightly. But anyway, raffle tickets, City Distilling, our sponsor, Buffalo Wild Wings for having us. How about this guy, Ray Dinger? Come on. Come on. These stories are phenomenal. If Tommy and me comes back around, I've seen it twice. I highly recommend it. I was fortunate enough to see the very first one when Tommy was still alive. That was spectacular. And I was just where was it? Down in
It was
People's.
it was a place called Fringe Arts Theater down in Penn's Landing.
Yeah.
And you're right. People often ask the question, did Tommy ever get to see the play? And yes, he was alive in 1990, in 2016 when we did it, and he came with his wife, his children, and all of his grandchildren. They filled one whole row of seats in the theater, and they had a great night. So I'm really glad that Tommy got to see it. He enjoyed it tremendously.
So being the big football guy that you are, and I'm not so sure that everybody in this room is a football fanatic, fan, whatever. What last words can you share with us about football? I put you on the spot.
Yeah, that'll do it all right. Well, look, you look at where you are right now. You're 7-2. You beat Kansas City in Kansas City. You beat Tampa in Tampa. You just beat the Packers in Lambeau. You beat the Rams here. Got a little lucky, but that never hurts. You are the number 1 seed at the moment. The teams in your division in the NFC East are falling apart. I don't see any way that this team will not win the NFC East, finish first. And they have a very realistic chance to be the number 1 seed going into the playoffs. And if they do, they're going to be really hard to beat. Sunday night's game, will tell you a lot. Because the Lions are legit, and they're really good. And if the Eagles can win that game and get to 8-2, you very well may be going back to the Super Bowl. And you know how long it's been? I'll throw a question at you. Who was the last Philadelphia sports team to win back-to-back?
48, 49.
Flyers. The Broad
yeah.
Street Bullies.
Yeah.
74, 75. They're the last team to win back-to-back. The Eagles did it back in 1948, 49. They won back-to-back. It hasn't happened in this town very often, but it just may happen this year. So watch Sunday night. I think you'll have a pretty good idea of exactly what this team is on Sunday night.
There you go.
Then you're going to have to write another encyclopedia.
What's that?
Then you're going to have to write another encyclopedia.
Yeah, and for those of you that are interested, there are copies of my new Philadelphia Eagles Encyclopedia, which is current through the last Super Bowl. That is obviously Saquon Barkley on the cover. We didn't have to think very hard about that cover. We were trying to decide what to put on the cover. We all kind of agreed, yeah, the backward hurdle probably should be the cover. So if any of you want to relive Eagles history, all 542 pages of it, it's right here.
There you go. Got one last question for Ray before he leaves. You talked about Tommy being your favorite player as a kid. What drew him to you? Obviously, you had the relationship afterwards, but before you got to be sitting in front of the locker room to get his autograph, what was the appeal to him?
Very simple. The gentleman who was back there, the Tommy McDonald fan, if you were of a certain age, we're probably about the same age, you loved Tommy McDonald because he was the smallest guy on the team. He was 5'9", 170 pounds. He looked like he was about 12 years old. He was no bigger than we were. He didn't look any older than we did. And he played in short sleeves in cold weather, did not wear a face mask, and had this sort of, I always said that he reminded me, he played pro football on Sundays the way other kids played ball at recess. You know how kids at recess, you run around and you're playing for fun and you're dreading that the bell's going to ring and it's going to be time to go back to class. That was how Tommy played pro football. When you were watching him play, he looked like a kid that was out playing in the schoolyard at recess. He just made it fun. He made it fun for everybody. He made it fun for the grown-ups. He made it fun for my parents. But he sure made it fun for little kids because he was the easiest player to love, and he was certainly the easiest player for us to identify with. And so that was how I felt about him before I met him.
Right.
And then when I finally did get to meet him, and he handed me his helmet and said, "Come on, kid, walk. Come on, little brother, walk with me." That did it. You know, we were friends for life. We were friends for 40 years. And the amazing thing about it was, all I wanted was an autograph.
Right.
All I wanted was one autograph, and I would have been happy. And because of the way it happened, I wound up with a 40-year friendship, and wound up going to the Hall of Fame with him. I mean, what are the odds, right?
Right.
How about that?
Yeah.
Wow, big hand.
Very cool.
Big hand. Come on. Thank you, Ray.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Great being with you.
Hang out with us. We're going to take a couple of photos, and then we'll start an autograph line. The books will be available, and you can buy Ray a soda pop.
There you go.